So Gojo Satoru is one of, if not the strongest in the JJK verse, only second to Sukuna. But even with all that power, Gojo is still human, and humans are social beings that needs other humans to survive, if not in strength, then in company. And yes, that's a fact. I know that a lot of emo bastards out there thinks otherwise. Like, just think of it this way. If you want to order something from a restaurant, the food that you eat was made by a chef. If you want to fly to another country, the plane is flown by a pilot. Or even the phone or electronic device that you're currently watching this video in was designed and manufactured by other people. But yeah, back to the topic of Gojo. So Gojo with this immense strength is viewed as a problem solver. Everyone around him, if they are in trouble or they can't beat a certain curse, Gojo is the person they call to save the day. Because why wouldn't they? In their eyes, Gojo is the strongest. But by doing this, they unintentionally makes Gojo feels like a thing instead of a person. And that is why throughout the series, even though we always see Gojo with a smile and just crack jokes to those around him and pretty much just be happy, deep down he feels lonely because no one can connect with him, no one can understand him. Though this wasn't always the case. You see, Gojo back in the day when he was still a teenager and not as OP as he is now had a Naruto-Sasuke rivalry best friend kind of thing, but not with Sasuke, with Geto. And the show don't really explain where he's from, besides that he came from a non-sorcerer family, aka just normal people, but Geto discovered that he can see stuff that normal people can't, and so later he became a special grade sorcerer. And this is when he met Gojo, a fellow special grade sorcerer, and the two would quickly become friends because throughout their lives they have been the strongest with no competition, Gojo having the 6 eyes and limitless, and Geto having his absorbing curses ability. Now let's talk about Gojo for a little bit. Gojo was born in the Gojo family on December 7th, 1989. He is the first one to inherit the 6 eyes and limitless after 400 years. And when Gojo was born, his fate, whether he likes it or not, was already sealed. Just simply because he was born, he changed the whole JJK world. Just like if you're an athlete and all of a sudden a new athlete just starts dominating everyone, whether you like it or not, you have to be stronger and better just so that you can compete with a new athlete. A similar thing happened in the JJK world, but just replaced the athlete with curses and the new dominating athlete with Gojo. But now let's talk about Gojo's psyche, or in other words, what makes Gojo, Gojo. So Gojo, as you all know, having inherited the 6 eyes and limitless after his 400 years of absence from the world, makes him by default one of the strongest in the JJK verse. And Gojo fully realizes that. In fact, he actually embraces it. Since childhood, he always sort of looked down to people, especially those who are weaker than him. When he was like 8, a bounty was put on him. Now, any normal 8-year-old would freak out and be scared by this. But of course, this is Gojo we're talking about, and so instead of him getting scared, he's scared of the ones who are going after him, and just smugly says, now Gojo, since his childhood, because of his condescending tone that he treats everyone with, leaves them with no friends, until he met Geto. For the first time, he actually finds someone who is as powerful as him. Someone that he can tell his problems to and actually understands what it's like to be the strongest. And Geto not only serves as a friend to Gojo, but also as his moral compass. Because you see, the current Gojo, the friendly, childish, overpowered sensei that we know and love, is far from what he's like in his teenage years. In his teenage years, he's a lot more arrogant and cocky. Not to say that the current Gojo is not arrogant and cocky, but in his teenage years, his cockiness just got dialed up to 11. And not only that, he also questions on why the strong should be protecting the weak, and why they also should hide their strength from the weak, and the weak that he's referring to is of course non-Jujutsu sorcerer. And as fast as he asks those questions, Geto as quickly counters them. He counters with that the strong, referring to the Jujutsu sorcerer, should protect non-Jujutsu sorcerer because they need to have a reason to use their strength. And of course, Gojo just responds by mocking him. But even though Gojo and Geto might not always see eye to eye, their friendship is tied strong. Because they're the strongest, and the only one that can understand the loneliness that comes with being the strongest is each other. That's why Gojo finds comfort in Geto and vice versa. Gojo finally found someone that could relate to him, though this won't last forever. Now, in the beginning of Season 2, Gojo and Geto is tasked to bring the Star Plasma vessel to Tengen safely and most importantly, alive. And the mission starts off relatively well. We get a brief scene where Geto tells Gojo to stop being so full of himself so that his juniors wouldn't be scared of him and for him to act more politely, especially to his superiors. But of course, Gojo being Gojo just brushed it off. Now let's talk about this for a little bit. So as you all know, Gojo craves someone to be as powerful as him, so that not only he gets the thrill of battle, and also so that no one would be lonely like him. That is why he becomes a teacher, so that he can nurture young talents in hopes that one day they would be as strong, if not stronger than him. Now back to it. After Gojo and Geto defeat the dudes that attacked them and tried to harm Riko, the Staroplasma vessel, Toji was hired to kill Riko. But of course, to bypass Gojo, he would need to wear him out first, and so he sets up a bounty on Riko. So Gojo and Geto decides that they need to protect her until the bounty is lifted. And to not make it boring, they decide to have a little vacation, while Gojo and Geto protects her from any threat. And this is where Gojo would start to understand the people that he calls weak, by him seeing Riko just enjoy life and be happy, even though in a couple of days she is gonna merge with Tengen, aka she dies. Now fast forward a bit and the bounty is lifted, and Gojo, after having a 6 eyes active and not sleep for days, finally turned off his 6 eyes, and the second he did that, Toji stabbed him. And now we enter the Toji incident. Now the Toji incident is an incident where 2 of the most powerful sorcerers got beat by a gym bro. But there are 2 main events that happen in this Toji event. One is the awakening of Gojo by him learning reverse curse technique, red and hollow purple. The second he died at the hands of Toji, therefore now making him the strongest sorcerer in modern times, leaving Geto behind. And the second one is Geto's descent to evil. So Gojo, after he single-handedly defeated Toji, now has become the strongest sorcerer, and this means that he gets sent on more solo missions, and from a quote by young Nanami, he probably handles most of the strong curses by himself. And while Gojo is busy taking care of the curses, he unintentionally makes Geto feel like he's being left behind. While Gojo is experiencing the temporary excitement of being the strongest, Geto is second-guessing his morals and ideology, because after Riko's death, both of them deals with it with 2 different ways. Gojo making himself stronger so that an event like that wouldn't happen ever again, and Geto trying to solve on his mind what he should do, so that there won't be any curses. Long story short, he went the Frieza route and starts calling non-sorcerers monkeys. And also, as his master plan, he intends to wipe out every non-sorcerer on Earth. And his first move was him taking out the whole entire village by himself, and after that he took out his parents. And of course, with all that chaos, the Jujutsu High sends Gojo to take out Geto. And as they met, Geto asked the infamous quote,
"Kimi wa Gojo Satoru dakara saikyou nano ka? Saikyou dakara Gojo Satoru nano ka?"
And then he just left. While Gojo could have killed Geto in that moment right there, he can't bring himself to do it. And this would leave Gojo depressed for a little bit. He ponders about Geto's last words to him before he left, as it finally hits him that the only person that has ever understood him had just left him. And it's because of him. If only he had noticed Geto's mind falling into the darkness, maybe he could have prevented it. If only he didn't surpass Geto to become the strongest on his own, Geto would still be here. And like I said before, this is why Gojo becomes a teacher, so that he can find and nurture young talents that has the potential to be as strong if not stronger than him, like Yuta, Megumi, and Yuji. Because he wants to create a world where no one would feel lonely just to be strong. But that is just one side of the coin of his motivation. Gojo's other motif is so that he can experience the thrill and excitement of battle, because Gojo now has become the strongest and no one could even come close to him in terms of power, until later on the series when he fought Sukuna. Now, I'm not gonna go into full detail about the fight, but basically Gojo and Sukuna fought, and at first reading you may think that Gojo mostly dominates throughout the battle. But that's just for Sukuna to get Mahoraga to adapt to Gojo's limitless technique. But before you can realize that, Gojo lands a Black Flash on Sukuna, and that basically just means that Gojo's hits will become stronger, faster, basically it's like a stat buff. Now, the fight ends with Sukuna winning by cutting Gojo in half. Now, even though Gojo lost, he felt relief in a sense, because he had just experienced the thrill of battle. Now, Gojo, while chatting with Geto in the afterlife, said that even if Sukuna hadn't fought him with the 10 shadows, he probably would have still lost. And for the first time in his life, he humbles himself and admits defeat, because he is satisfied with his fight against Sukuna. And also for the first time since Toji, he lost while giving it his all. He also now felt relief because he doesn't have to carry the weight of being the strongest anymore. So, in conclusion, in Gojo's pursuit of finding an equal in strength for him to fight, he found himself humbled and created a generation full of talented individuals. And as he lays there on the ground, he can finally reunite with his best friends and entrust the responsibility of the world to his students. And that is it for the video, and as always, thanks for watching, and see ya.